Welcome to St Michael and All Angels Church, Knights Enham. This building was first recorded in 1241. I am the 47th priest to hold the cure of souls in this place. This video traces the journey of the holy people of God here in Knights Enham. People have inhabited this place for many thousands of years, indeed long before the birth of Christ. The proof of this lies in this small stone arrowhead that I recently excavated from the new rectory garden.
Here in Andover Museum, we discover something of the story of this area and the Celtic people who lived here before the Romans came. Over 2,000 years ago, the Celts lived and farmed here and built hill forts at Berry Hill and Danebury. Traces of a settlement have been found just north of our church in Blagdon's Wood and Rag Copse. A recently discovered photograph shows a tumulus in what is now the church car park. Across the paddock there are two banks and a ditch. The last trace of a hill fort or a medieval boundary? We do not know. For the Celts, the world was magical and mystical. The gods were everywhere and had to be kept happy and in a generous mood by offerings and prayers.
On the north side of the church grows a yew tree, only about 250 years old, so much younger than the church building. But it reminds us that our ancestors worshipped the spirits. They thought those spirits lived in the tree, or perhaps near the springs. They would have made offerings to ensure good fortune and to win the help of the gods. Some of the children of the parish came to help us remember the ancient customs, together with the things we do today that link us directly with the pre-Christian faith of the people who lived here. What do we do at weddings to ensure the couple have plenty of healthy children? Good luck!
Good luck!
Another ancient custom was to place metal in water. The story of Excalibur, when the spirits returned the sword to King Arthur, connects those ancient beliefs with Christian faith. Our modern connection with that is to throw coins into a wishing well.
When the Romans arrived, they too settled near the church, a little to the southeast. They built the Icknield Way from Winchester to Cirencester. It passes the church just a few hundred yards to the north. Another Roman road, the Port Way, crosses the parish further south near the church centre. A Roman settlement was established at the road junction. This oyster was eaten by a Roman resident and the shell discarded. Did they bring the Christian faith with them, or, like the Celts, they conquered? Did they fear and try to please the many Roman gods with offerings and prayers?
By the 5th century, the Romans had left, returning to defend Rome, and new people, the Anglo-Saxons, came to our shores to settle around Knights Enham. There must have been fierce battles as the newcomers established themselves. The springs and fertile ground attracted them to live here. The newest homes in the parish reflect their presence. What would they make of it all now, I wonder? Before long, St. Augustine landed in Kent, bringing the good news of Jesus to these shores. King Alfred was on the throne, and the first cathedral had been built by 994, when the Bishop of Winchester, Alphege, confirmed Olaf Tryggvason, King of Norway, on the steps of St. Mary's Church in Andover. Bishop Michael, our present Bishop of Winchester, stands on the site of that confirmation to remind us of the visit of Bishop Alphege so long ago. By the year 1008, Alphege was Archbishop of Canterbury. He returned, this time to King's Enham, with the king, nobles and bishops, and held a great council, combining no doubt church and state business with the good hunting provided by the forest. Olaf's confirmation, together with a payment of gold, brought to an end the terrifying Viking raids that had devastated the country. Olaf Close, on Viking Way at the northern end of our parish, marks all these events for us. By this time, there was probably a Saxon church on the site. A letter exists from Augustine to Pope Gregory, and Gregory's reply, advising that Christian churches should be built on sites of pagan worship. The carved head, 12th century or maybe earlier, set above the vestry window, is in the Celtic or Saxon style. Our war memorial commemorating the men who died in both First and Second World Wars is a Celtic cross. The circle is the ancient symbol for safety and protection. Each year on Remembrance Sunday, local trumpeters from Knights Enham Junior School join the congregation for the 2 minutes silence and the laying of the poppy wreath. The Celts had round houses, and their hill forts were round: Berry Hill, Danebury, Old Sarum. 1066 is perhaps the best known date in English history, the Battle of Hastings, when the Normans defeated the English. King Harold was killed, King William was conqueror. The Normans set about surveying their new land. 1086, the Doomsday Survey. They built castles and churches. It was at this time that many great abbeys were founded, and the parish system of government was established. Near the centre of Andover stands the Norman Arch, rebuilt on its present site by the Victorians, who rebuilt the Norman parish church of St. Mary's. The word Enham probably means a place where lambs were bred, and perhaps is connected to our word yeaning, another word for lambing. It is, according to local legend, because the church was used by knights travelling to the Crusades, that the parish became known as Enham Militis, Knights Enham in English.
In 1982, my life changed literally forever. When I was fighting in the Falklands War, I suffered full-thickness burns to the majority of my body when the ship I was on was bombed. But I'm just one of millions of service personnel who've returned home from a war zone injured or wounded. And that is why I've come to this little village of Enham Alamein in Hampshire to discover a truly inspirational story of overcoming adversity. This isn't the story of one house, it's a story of 63 homes built in 1918, and at the time represented a radical approach to the care of war veterans. I'm off to meet Doug Saunders, who has lived here all of his life. So Doug, how did you come to stay here?
My father had been a prisoner of war, and by all accounts, he was in a hell of a state. He had no grasp on life at all.
World War I had one of the highest casualty rates in history. Nearly 1 million British Empire soldiers died, 2 million returned home blind, missing limbs, or suffering from severe shell shock. Their experience had changed them forever. Enham was the very first post-war rehabilitation centre. Doug's father and other war vets were sent here for as long as they needed. What was it like growing up amongst all of those veterans?
I didn't know what a veteran was. As far as I was concerned, everybody walked with a walking stick. We had our own football team here, which was all made up of disabled blokes. 2 of them had head wounds, so they couldn't head the ball. But other than that, they could play football.
On site, nurses and doctors helped the men both mentally and physically, and taught them new trades, including basket weaving and furniture making.
We got my father doing the cobbling. It certainly was a making of him, and he had no wish to go anywhere else once he got here. And made our family.
After World War II, more servicemen came to live at Enham. Lily Robson, now 102, moved to this house with her wounded husband in 1942.
My husband, he had his leg amputated, and I went out because he had all the treatment, you know, afterwards. But he did suffer a lot with the nerve pains.
Bet he cut a right dash in his uniform, didn't he?
Especially in his blue patrols.
I bet he did.
I think you're a bit naughty.
Nowadays, soldiers and veterans no longer come to Enham. Instead, they rely on military charities to help and support them to live at home independently. But whilst Enham no longer has military links, the spirit of the initial project lives on in the Enham Trust.
You're listening to Radio Enham Breakfast Club.
Here, a community of people with a range of disabilities are encouraged to support themselves, learn life skills, and gain independence. I truly believe that Enham deserves a place in the top 50. This is a very special place, and if you ever come, you'll feel it for yourselves.
This Hampshire village has 2 very proud claims to fame. The first one is its name, which sounds a bit more Sahara Desert than Thatched Cottage, and the second one is the story behind the name. Enham Alamein was created as a unique home for war heroes over 90 years ago. In the First World War, 2 million British servicemen were injured. 750,000 were permanently disabled. Many, mentally and physically traumatised, were brought to Enham to help them recover. Small military pensions meant they couldn't look after themselves. They were given homes and their children grew up here. Doug Saunders, who's 83, was born in Enham. His father, Walter, came here in 1919, suffering from shell shock. Walter and his wife and children were only the second family to move in. Doug is the one in white. So what was it like growing up here?
Well, it was different because It was only late the latter years you realised how different it was, because you see, you were so used to men walking about with one arm, one leg. Nearly everybody had a walking stick. You just thought that was a general thing until you got a bit older.
Enham gave work to all of them. Walter became a cobbler, and they provided a home for his family.
My own father, and talking for a lot of the other men, they would have been on the scrap heap, obviously, if it hadn't been for a place like Enham. And, well, my dad, it made his life.
In those days, the village was just called Enham. But then came the Second World War and the crucial Battle of Alamein in Egypt, when the Allies repelled Rommel's forces. It meant hundreds more disabled soldiers were brought back here, and as a gesture of thanks for Britain's role, Egypt raised more than £200,000 as a gift. And this is how the village responded. With their new name, Enham Alamein thrived. And today, it's still going strong. So what's it like round here, Leslie? It strikes me as a very friendly place, is that right?
Yes, it is, yes. There are lovely people here, very community-minded.
Now, I'm told there's something rather amusing back here. Wow, barber shop. It's my spiritual home. How are you doing? You all right?
I'm fine, thanks, yeah.
For what it's worth, Colin, you're doing an excellent job.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much.
In peacetime, the demand from ex-servicemen diminished, so the Enham headquarters opened its doors to civilians. It's become one of Britain's leading disability charities, helping 3,000 people a year with learning, physical or mental disabilities. Brilliant! It feels like part of the village here. It doesn't feel like an institution at all. And there's this great philosophy here that you are the boss, you're an individual. You can achieve whatever you want. So what's Enham brought to you here?
It's brought a whole new life for me and opened up a whole new load of doors and opportunities for me.
Enham has always provided employment to help give disabled servicemen a new start. Today it's as busy as ever. Here they're packing up products for well-known companies.
We look at capabilities, not the disabilities. That's how I like to put it. We give everybody encouragement and a purpose and a value here, which they perhaps wouldn't get outside.
What do you feel that working here has brought you?
Confidence, self-esteem. Despite my disability, it's given me a good-looking life now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
In the early days, horticulture was one of the favourite jobs. For the men who came here from the horrors of war, the tranquility must have been like paradise. And as productive now as ever, veg and flowers are growing right through the year.
It's very good therapy. You get everything from seed to plate, and everyone benefits enormously from the therapeutic side of things.
Fantastic. Can I take some home with me?
Yes, you can indeed.
Great. 250,000 people have come to find help here over the years, starting with all those wounded soldiers. In fact, the charity has been helping the services again recently, coaching veterans from Afghanistan and Iraq to get jobs back in Civvy Street. Enham Alamein. Now, if that isn't a name with a claim to fame, I'll eat my own hairbrush.